Right, because you kind of got to talking to the mic.
He gonna think it was what it was, And I said it's over.
Whoa.
Whoa. Lord Jesus. Okay, welcome to episode 5 of Brunch with Besties. Today I have
Nadia,
Lakeisha,
and Rams.
And of course, Sherry Renee. I'm here with you guys as well. So this episode is a little bit special. We have our first guest.
Woo woo.
Yay. Shouts out to Rams for coming through.
Thank you for coming.
Yes,
No
definitely appreciative.
So if you guys listened to episode 4, you know that we talked about Chanel's last relationship during tea time. And so her ex-boyfriend, Rams, is here today to give his take on the whole situation. And plus just to add some male perspective. So if you guys are ready, we're going to go ahead and get into it.
Yeah.
As always, we start with a toast. Miss Nadia, who are you toasting to today?
Well, I'm going to toast to the weekend. Not the artist, but the actual weekend.
I'm like, you're a fan?
I think this is like the first weekend that I have not had like events and things like that planned. I'm excited to just do absolutely nothing this weekend.
Won't he do it?
Shout out to the weekend. And not the artist.
Right.
Well, we love you, though, if you listen.
Lakeisha, who are you toasting to today?
I'm toasting to all the kids that have gone back to school and preparing to go to school, that is just ready to learn and just be the best that they can be. So kudos to you guys.
Or are you toasting to your kids going back to school?
They go back to
back
school
soon.
next week, Monday.
Okay.
So they haven't gone back yet.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And Rams, who does your toast go to today?
I'm going to toast to my interns.
Shouts out to the
For my
intern.
job. We have a lot of thought-provoking, life-changing conversations, and they're doing a lot of good work. So, shouts out to them.
Awesome. Shouts out to them. And my toast goes to Miss Nadia for being pregnant.
Really?
I'm just so excited.
Well, you know.
You finally let the cat out the bag in last week's
Yes.
episode.
We
Oh,
got gifts in this thing.
Is that the gift from the We Care event, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so at
you.
Lakeisha's event, I saw this amazing little girl outfit, and I was like, oh, I don't know what Nadia's having, but we just gonna wheel for her to have a girl.
We gonna wheel for it to be a girl.
Put it in the
child.
atmosphere.
Yes.
Right.
And the Lord will
yes.
hear it.
No
And
boys.
answer.
I already got one of those.
already has
It's been
I already got one of those.
I already got one
Right,
of those.
like you could just return it if you wanted to, huh?
Goodness.
Okay, so let's go ahead and break bread. Nadia, what's going on?
You know, nothing much. I mean, this past week I've just been kind of playing catch up. The past few weeks I've been extremely sick, so I've been slacking on everything in life, okay? Work, I mean, my YouTube channel, everything. So this week I've just been kind of catching up because I've been feeling a little better this week. So that's what it's, been all about for me.
Okay, cool. Lakeisha, what's up?
Man, I have some exciting news. I don't think I can release it yet for the Evolve and Share podcast. Just with guests and like new streaming platforms. So I'm just excited. Like it's some big things happening. So y'all stay connected to me to hear about it.
Yeah.
Stay connected. The Evolving Chair podcast. Are you ready to leave better than you came, or get up from the chair better than you came?
I know that's right.
All right, Rams, what's going on with you?
All right, on my end, I'm trying to get back into school, grad school, so I applied, and I'm just waiting on that letter.
Back to back.
It took me a minute to kind of make that decision, and I'm excited about making it just to figure out where it's going to take me, both in my job and personally, just that experience going through it. So
Okay, so where are you looking at going?
still Whitewater.
Whoop whoop! I'm Whitewater alumni for my MBA.
I'm actually taking up communication, so it should be fun.
Okay, cool, awesome. And then with me, you guys are going to get the same spiel until the event happens.
But no.
But on September 14th, my team is working really hard to put together an amazing event for you all. It will be at the Harley-Davidson Museum. It is called Urban Bike Night. All bikers are welcome. If you're not a biker, you're welcome. So you are welcome to come enjoy food, dancing, great music, lots of bikes, lots of shows.
Yes.
It's totally free. You can
Free
bring
is always good.
Free is always good.
That's always a plus.
There will be tons of giveaways, and I've been collecting some of the giveaways, so they are fantastic. Yeah, we're going to be giving away lots of stuff. So even free Riders Academy tickets, you know, for people who want to learn how to ride. We're also going to have House of Harley on site. They will be there doing demonstrations, just, you know, for people who may be a little bit apprehensive about getting on the bike.
Yeah.
So it's totally free. It's going to be September 14th. That's a Thursday from 5 to 9. So everybody is welcome to come out. We've been partnering with some of the local bike clubs. We're going to do a big ride from Juneau Avenue. That's our corporate office down to the museum. So if you want to be a part of that, show up at 5 at Juneau Avenue.
And kids can come too, right?
Kids can come too. Everybody can come.
Yeah, last year I brought Marianne with me, and I did the bike
jump start
simulation or something like
Yeah,
that.
so the
I
jump
really thought I
start.
was doing something, but I wasn't.
The jump start is a stationary bike that you can get on, and it's a simulation, like you said. And basically, what you do is you shift through all the gears. So yeah, wasn't it fun?
It was. It was.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get into our topic today.
Dun,
So-
dun, dun. I'm just
For real.
had to lighten up the mood because I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh.
So Rams, did you listen to our last episode?
I did.
You did?
I did.
What did you
So
think?
how did you feel about
I mean, I felt like I was in the hot seat for a little bit, but I feel pretty cool about it. Just it was good to hear how you all felt, how she felt.
Yeah. Did you know how she felt?
Kinda.
Kinda.
We did have conversations, but it's always a good thing to really
Right.
get a sense of how somebody feels, so you understand. So,
Right, because I'm sure you got the clean cut version of how she felt.
Right.
yeah.
So we started off the episode by talking about standards last time, and we only had our perspective, you know. So now that you're here, we're wondering, what are your standards?
Man, I'm different.
You different,
I
okay?
don't know if that's a good thing
That's
or
a good
bad
thing.
thing.
Be
It
you.
is, definitely.
What does different mean? What does that look like when you say you're different? Different from who?
My standards, male standards, I would say. I'm pretty open.
Okay.
I don't really have that many standards aside from being able to grow. I know we all come from different situations, different backgrounds, and if I'm involving myself with somebody, I don't want to put myself in this bubble because of different social norms, different family norms, and things like that. I just would just personally expect to grow as a person, as an individual. I feel like too often a lot of people try to find relationships or people in their lives that they expect to change, you know, to their likings, their needs. But I'm a type of person where, you know, as long as you each are growing together, you're growing the right way, period, point blank. So my standards are pretty open. Yeah.
Okay. So last time, what do you remember some of our standards, just to give him some background?
And I think ours was a little different because we categorized it as young Black professional women standards. And it was, you know, he has to love God, I don't want to say, well, yes, be successful, but what does, you know, success looks like for that person?
Right.
You being motivated and determined, family oriented, having friends, humble. Yeah.
Things like that.
So deal breakers, I guess I could.
Yeah, go ahead. What's the deal breaker?
He like, let's move along.
He said, "Screw y'all standards."
That is funny.
I just I don't like drama.
Okay.
It's crazy that I do marketing and communications, but I'm not really a social media person. I feel like it's starting to get oversaturated, and a lot of people have a disconnect with like interpersonal relationships, and a lot of times it's really hard to communicate. So if you like too heavy into social media and stuff like that, I really can't rock with you.
So
rock with you.
what does too heavy in social media mean?
If you're an as seen on TV type of person, constantly in your phone, constantly checking out memes and thinking that that's reality, not taking the time to put it down. Sometimes you got to detach from it. And I feel like you have a lot of people nowadays, old and young, that just stay in that bubble and think life operates through a phone. Anything you see on social media, whether it be trends or that nature, you know, following them, reenacting them, things like that. Like that's the culture.
Right.
It's not. It's not good at all, and it really is something I'd rather stay away from when it comes to finding a partner.
And I'm glad you highlighted that actually, because I ran across an article a few days ago about certain things that can tell if your relationship is going down the drain, basically. And one thing was about like social media posting, like if the one person is posting all the time, and not really in tune to what the reality of the relationship looks like. Because, you know, sometimes people give that falsehood on social media. Everything is all good and great, you know, unicorns and rainbows over here.
Right. Sunshine, lollipops, and roses.
Exactly. And not really showing, you know, like, oh my gosh, we just had this serious argument. How do we work through that?
Right.
So I'm glad you highlighted that, because that was something that the article did mention.
Right. And you know what? That's also something that Heather Lindsay talked about when we were at the Pinky Promise conference. And then she posted a picture of her and her husband. They looked really happy. And she was like, what y'all don't know is like 5 minutes ago.
Yes.
It went down.
Yes.
You know, she was like, but we just strive to, you know, keep working at our marriage every day type of thing. But I agree that people tend to post whatever they want you to see. And it's kind of like a competition. You know what I mean?
It is.
So, but it's great that article mentioned that they're focused on what it looks like so much that they don't really pay attention to what the reality is.
It is, which creates those falsehoods of people having those relationship goals, right?
Right.
So.
Yeah. Relationship goals.
But you don't really want that relationship goal because you don't know what they went through to get to that happy space or whatever.
Right. So then how do you feel about dating in Milwaukee?
Wow.
You better say the right thing. I'm just playing.
Everybody knows everybody here in Milwaukee. And that's one of the most challenging things to kind of get into. You know, if you involve yourself with a partner, sometimes you probably know their history, you know, prior to even be with them, and that's a turnoff most times. I myself have had the liberty to travel a lot, you know, so those experiences that I've had leaving and coming back made me look at Milwaukee and the people in Milwaukee completely differently. It's a handful of great people out here, but I don't think that I could personally find myself settling down with somebody in Milwaukee just because I'm a different breed. You know, I would want the people or the person I'm with, you know, to really, you know, see things bigger than just Milwaukee, this bubble.
Right.
The women here, for the most part, and again, I'm young, I'm 26, so I can't really speak on older women. But the women my age.
Did he look at me when he
girl,
said
I was
older
finna
woman?
say,
Hold on, Graham.
First of all, we is
Hold
That
on.
button, y'all
Whoa.
Wait a minute. I'm just playing. I'm just
We're
playing.
30, so we're all millennials, though, at this table.
I'm just playing.
So,
Go ahead.
we're all in the same age
All
bracket.
opinions matter on this podcast, except for when you calling me old.
No, I ain't mean to hit that button. Not at all. I like my life. I want to keep it, at least while I'm here.
Right.
But the women, kind of my age and younger, it's really hard for us. You know, it's a lot of competition. As far as who wearing the pants in a relationship, I hear a lot about, you know, control and things of that nature. And again, I'm real big on no pants in a relationship and interactions. I don't want to control anybody. I don't want to feel like I'm your father or come off, you know, in that way. And a lot of times you run into issues like that just because of the level of immaturity. And I feel like it's a lot of immature, both men and women in Milwaukee. And I find myself kind of running into those bubbles.
Okay. So I know when we first met you, you were getting ready to go to Ghana.
Yeah.
So you have had a lot of different experiences. How long were you there?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Oh, that's a significant amount of time to absorb the culture. And then you kind of keep making the statement of I'm different. So what do you see as the standard? And then where do you fall against that? Like, what does I'm different mean?
2 chains. I look at life on both sides, both perspectives. Recently, I kind of dabbled in the understanding like gender norms and pronouns and things like that, just to figure out and reflect on myself as a man. Try to view life from the lens of a woman or women, and see how they feel. And I've grown to understand that I'm a collection or a culmination, and not just, you know, that masculine kind of vibe or feel, or those masculine principles, but also, you know, feminine feminine principles and upbringings because I was raised by a strong woman, and strong men in my family, and seeing my mother and other women in my family go through what they went through in a relationship sometimes, you kind of got to take a step back and think about your actions, what you're doing, how you're pursuing relationships and things of that nature. And at my age and with the circles that I'm in, my peers, I love them to death, but I don't think that they are taking those times out of their lives to actually put that into perspective and make themselves handle situations differently, make themselves change their philosophies and principles on life. And I feel like that's what makes me different from my peers. Right now, from the people who I know, from people I involve myself in, with the standard I've been seeing, it's just so selfish, only in it for self, and be that relationship, personal goals and things of that nature. It's no compassion, no emotion for nothing. It's just a detachment. And me, I'm super connected. Maybe it's an art thing, or maybe I'm just reaching that point in my life, but it's a major disconnect and a detachment from everything. That seems like, for me, that's the standard.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I remember when we first met, you was at Chanel's birthday party, which was at my house, and you definitely are really connected. You definitely are really different, which is why we were excited that you had interest in Chanel, because we were like, oh, he's so different, like, not your typical.
Right. Had me crying the first night I met him.
You did?
Like,
Yeah, you did. It was crazy.
mean, now there was like drinks involved, but still, it was just kind of like, wow, this is a really different.
Yeah, you
type of
shifted the
guy.
whole atmosphere when you came in.
Right.
So
It's a birthday party. I made it
it
sad.
was. No, you know what?
but
it was.
It was in a good way,
Yeah.
though. I don't think there was.
I think that was probably later the next morning, maybe, anyway, because it was a late night.
Yeah, it was.
But in any case, she had a good time. We had a great time. But then things did get really deep out of nowhere.
It's really quick. It did.
So, what do you think are the common misconceptions of dating a young Black professional man? So we kind of talked about how guys may think that we're bougie, or what else did we say?
Too independent.
Yeah.
Too independent.
Yeah, too independent.
So are there any common misconceptions about dating a young Black professional man that you want to share?
Do you highlight yourself as such? Would you say you are a young Black professional male? And if so, I guess
would
what does
say
that look like for you?
I am a young Black professional male. And for me, that kind of looks like just taking care of your stuff, your business, be it personal, family, situational. Like, I make sure any and every endeavor I take care of is handled progressively. I have a child, so most of what I do is kind of centered around him and his well-being, and kind of setting those stones for him. But as far as the misconceptions that women have for young Black professional males, I think most of them feel like we just out here just for fun. We're trying to have fun, want to fling. Is this a censor?
Yep.
A censor show? Because I don't want to say the wrong.
If you do, Lakeisha will get you right together real fast, so don't worry about it.
Did that censor bar kind of pop up where I can use profanity or things like that? I don't know.
that?
What?
A censor bar?
I can block it out later. But for lack of a better
be
word,
tight, though.
I feel like the misconception is that we just want to fuck. And that's not the case. A lot of times we out here trying to find ourselves just like everybody else is. And I feel like it's because social media, again, is oversaturated with those images of us just wanting one thing, that's what people see. And people don't actually take the time to actually see what real men are like, and they categorize us in the same bubble. It's some of us out here with feelings. Some of us out here, that really want to do right or trying to do right, or have come from situations that may have not been the best of situations. You may not have adopted the right mentality or upbringing, but you're trying to get out of that habit. And along the way, you're going to make mistakes. And nowadays, you make one mistake, you get crucified. You don't have the opportunity to grow and learn, and then you just kind of fall into that same cycle over and over again with people that really don't know who you are.
Interesting. Now I feel bad about all the guys that I just bad.
I like that. I like that he highlighted too that they're trying to find themselves, because I feel like that is key.
That is
definitely key.
Yeah.
Even with us females, you know what I mean. We think we know what we want, and then we get into something, and unfortunately, it doesn't always play out like how we wanted it to. So that's key.
That is
interesting.
We don't have squads either. We got turn up squads. That go out, in the shenanigans. But as far as those, intimate conversations that really help you grow, as a man, sometimes some people are blessed to have that network of men that actually are concerned about, bro, you shouldn't have did that. Like, you gotta do better. Or you hurt. What's good? What's going on? Some people are blessed to have those people in their circles, but other people, don't. If you're going through something, most times the guys just like, all right, shit, let's turn up, and completely disregard those moments for growth. And that's one thing that differs from men and women now. Like, y'all have that circle, the network. Like, y'all can go out and have, girl parties. I don't know how they operate, but y'all.
Well, you were at one with us.
Okay.
We laughed, we cried.
I get it now. No, but y'all have those moments where y'all can be open and honest with each other, and we don't have that. And that shift or that difference makes the spectrum like super crazy. Whether it's you'll be able to have a conversation, to communicate how you feel, you're able to express yourself, versus you on the other side just numb, not caring, out here savaging, and it's necessary, and that's one thing we don't have, I guess.
I'm glad you said that. And I think it goes back to what you said, how you quote yourself as being different and looking at both, quote unquote, gender norms. Being a male, I'm assuming that wants to express your emotions and your feelings and be in a safe space where it's okay to do so. But of course, being a black male, I don't know what it was like growing up in home if you were told, like, man up, stop being a sissy or stop acting like a girl. But that's what our black males hear a lot. So when you hear that, that's constantly what you're thinking about. So, of course, I'm not going to tell my girl how I really feel about her and have her be like, oh, he ain't man enough. He ain't, strong enough for me,
Right.
Like he telling me how he feel. But don't you want him to tell you how he feel?
But then when he don't, then you be like, I never know how you feel.
Right, exactly.
What's going on?
Exactly. So we as a people, as a culture, need to change that. And it starts, from men like you being able to be like, hey, I'm creating this safe space for me to talk about my emotions. Let's do it. Let's not do the turn up thing, because at the end of the day, your emotions will still be there after the turn up.
Right.
Interesting. So let's go ahead and transition into your relationship with Chanel. So first, can you just give us your demographics? You kind of gave us some, but
A young buck. Just turned 26 Monday, actually.
Oh, happy birthday.
I am a young black African-American professional male. I do have a son. Will be too soon. Love him to death.
As he's sitting here with his hat on that says
Black
Fathers
Fathers
Matter.
Matter. Might as well have a T-shirt with your child face on it. I'm just playing.
Contrary to popular belief. Yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Okay. And so then tell us how things started with Chanel. Like, when do you first remember seeing her?
I seen her out at one of her events with her sorority. And it's crazy because my line brother was actually dating her line sister. And that's how I seen her. I always thought she was younger because Chanel, for those who don't know, looks like she's 21, 23, just gorgeous. And I always lean over to my line brother like, bro, like, who was that? She with your girl, like, who was that? And every time I seen her, it was just the same thing, like just in awe, like trying to find an opportunity to get a chance to talk to her, but having to kind of stay in my lane because I wanted to deal with my situation with my son's mother, not relationship-wise, but co-parenting. I don't want to bring that baggage on anybody, so I kind of admired from afar until I was comfortable enough to reach out once my situation was taken care seen her at a party, one of her events, and I reached out via social media. I was a DM creeper, not like
You was sliding
like-
the DM, child.
not like real explicit, but just trying to figure out who she was. I would see her like some of my photos, my posts, and just I view what kind of content like she was into.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And, I started getting intrigued. Most of what I post, whether it was like thought provoking or art, she really vibed with, and I respected that, I admired that. So fast forward to her party, and my services as a photographer. I just jumped on board just so I could see her.
Because you was like,
He said, I just jumped on board so I could be there.
yeah.
To see
Okay,
her.
so just to give y'all some background, Chanel lived out of town.
Yeah.
We were only gonna all be together on Christmas,
Yeah.
so hence her party was on Christmas night.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas was for my family was actually at my house, which was weird. So I had to like kick everybody out, redo the whole house because her party was a Chanel themed party. Everything had to be black and white. My house was brown, tan, burnt orange and stuff.
It was.
Yeah. And so I reached out to Rams and said, "Hey, I know that you have a son in this Christmas, but do you want to just come spend it with us?" Taking some photos of Chanel. And he was like, "Yeah."
With a hidden agenda.
Right.
But it's cool.
Opportunity, though.
Yeah, so on Christmas night.
I finally got a chance to really see what
Really
she was
thought,
about and have conversations with her. It was fun. I was actually with my family too prior to the event, and I kept letting them know I got something I got to do.
And again, he was
gotta
on
wrap
time. The
this
rest
up.
of
He
y'all
was,
wasn't.
and we was all super. I was still getting dressed when he arrived.
And I was texting him like, I don't even know him, and he in my house. Where y'all at? This ain't cool. Y'all bogus.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, so you came through. So
Yeah.
tell us the rest of the story.
Talk
so
through the night.
Yes. Well, not necessarily the night, but the relationship, right? So I would say that her birthday party was probably the launch, right, or the starting point.
So
Take it away, Rams.
After the party, after everybody kind of sobered up, and I made sure.
Hint, I was not drinking, so let me just throw that out there.
Let me just put that
Because we were talking.
Yeah,
we
we
were
were.
talking. So
I mean, I was talking too.
I had no alcohol
Okay.
infused
Go ahead.
emotion.
After the party, I tried to make sure she was safe, because she had a lot of fun. But I explained to her that I was getting ready to leave in a few overseas, and I would look forward to kind of linking up with her and getting an opportunity to figure out who she is, past the surface of that experience that we had. And if she was open to it, we should try it. And sure enough, that's what happened overseas. We kind of exchanged texts, photos, music, art, conversations. We stayed up. The time difference over there was 6 hours, so I would have to stay up a lot, like through the entire trip, just trying to get a hold of her. And when I came back, just that sheer experience of conversation, of the topics that we were discussing, a lot of that chemistry to build a lot higher than it was before. And sure enough, when I came back, we kind of went on a couple of dates. We chilled, had those intimate moments, not really outside, but inside, just expressing ourselves to one another, and kind of checking out from the world. Those were some of the best times that we had, and that's how that connection kind of
Right.
built, just being in each other's presence, alone, checked out from the world.
So I want to go back to what you said, that you admired her from afar at the beginning because you wanted to make sure your situation with your son's mom was, remedied, and I'm assuming probably the co-parenting thing, right?
Yeah.
Did you feel at that point, once you and Chanel became closer and decided to, put a title on the relationship and be committed to each other, that the situation was remedied at that point? Or were you still thinking like, oh, I'm not really sure I can be all in because I still have this situation going on?
No, at that point, I did feel like the situation was remedied. But you can't really control somebody else's thoughts and actions. And
Yeah.
at times, when I thought it was good, the situation would pop up, and then, like I said before, my son is only 2, so that's expected. This is new. It was a new thing to me. So on my end, if I'm feeling that the situation is remedied, and I'm doing everything on my end to make sure it's good. I still have to keep in mind that it's gonna be hurdle after hurdle after hurdle until we get it right because we new parents.
Yeah.
And that's what the issue that kind of faced with the relationship that kind of tore things down. A lot of times I'll be get frustrated because I didn't know how to respond to a situation or interact with a situation. And I think that's where we started to kind of split, or tension started to rise, because it felt on the outside that I wasn't ready to leave my situation, which I actually was. I just was concerned about the whole co-parenting experience and trying to get that right.
Yeah.
And at that point, I really didn't know how. Chanel has a child as well, and I'm under the impression that her experience with co-parenting, you know, for a longer period of time, allowed her to develop that system and get it in stone. And I really didn't have that. I thought I did, you know, but again, you know, being new, I kept running into different issues day to day. 1 week it'd be good, 2 weeks it'd be good, and then the next day it'd be like,
Yeah. You think it's good till it's not.
It definitely takes time. My son is 13, and I think we're finally at a point where it's like good, like consistently, but it took years for us to get there. So I can definitely identify with that.
Interesting. So then, what would you say were your intentions with Chanel?
Just to grow and figure out who she was. I know that's a lot of people say that it seems cliche, but I came into it, and we both came into it. I didn't have any expectations, because it's like, whoa, I didn't even know you was gonna reach out to me for the photo, or that I was gonna be here. So whatever comes from it comes from it. I don't like to lie to myself. I don't like a lot of people. I feel like that's bad, but I feel worse if I lie to myself or create these false promises that I can't really achieve. And I'm the type of person where if I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna try to do everything I can to do it. If I don't, it really hurts me. So I really didn't have too many expectations of, like, okay, I want this, I want that. You know, with this relationship, I was just kind of going with the flow, seeing where it took me. And a lot of people don't like to relinquish that sense of control. I know a lot of people are big on control. I want to control my relationship, my surroundings. I'm not like that. I'm just going with the flow, and that's what it was. And not to say like I don't care what happens, but it was all love. I wanted to be loved and loved, and that was my expectation with our interaction.
So my question, I'm thinking, is what is your purpose for dating? So many people do have the intentions of, I'm dating because I'm looking for my soulmate, or companionship, or what have you. So what is your purpose if you're solely like, you know, free spirited in a sense with it?
I think my purpose in dating is just to learn more about myself, so that way when I do meet that person that God brings into my life that I should be with, I'm ready. And there's no time limit on that. I can't control when it's going to come, but when it comes, and I'm going to know it. So while I'm getting there, you know, figuring out different ways to handle my personal situations, different ways to communicate in relationships, different ways to understand the women that I come in contact with, I'm going to make sure I'm taking the time to do that. I don't even know if I'm going to be here tomorrow. So for me to set this unrealistic expectation that I'm just going to meet my soulmate, like, I don't feel like it's fair to me or the person or the people that I encounter. That's really my purpose, is to figure out how can I be a better person, a better man, until that time comes where I find that person to be with.
Do you think there's ways for you to figure out how to be this better person, this better man, without actually dating?
I do. And I take those times to actually reflect on myself personally before I put myself into a situation. But the addition of a partner could kind of accelerate that. And that's what I found myself getting into. That was aggressive. I told you I had to set my phone down.
You did.
But I do feel like there are moments where you have to stay by yourself, get out that dating scene, and I'm slowly, you know, getting into that position. companionship is key for me, and whatever I can learn from somebody, I'm open to learning. If that involves me being exclusive with that person at the time so I can focus on what that person has to offer, that's what I'm going to do. And sometimes that's the reason behind hopping into a relationship. Well, not necessarily hopping in a relationship, but being exclusive with one particular person in that dating scene. What can I learn from you while I'm with you? What can you learn from me while I'm with you? And if this doesn't go as planned, at least we learn something. And at least you loved and I know I'm loved. Like, it's respect. So.
Why? And I could be wrong. Please correct me if I am.
Yeah.
I almost feel like you're afraid to envision yourself with saying, I can have that soulmate. I can have that person that completes me, or compliments me, I'll say. But why do you feel like you can't set that up in your head as a purpose? Because, I think, because many of us do that. Me personally, I'll just speak for me. I do feel like the next person I meet will be my husband. I know that tomorrow is not promised to me, but yet, I don't think about that as being a falsehood or feel like it's not being true to me or to that other person. You know what I mean? Like, granted, I know tomorrow is not promised to any of us. But why do you feel like you can't get to that point of being like, you know what? Because you talked about companionship and soul and having a soulmate and things like that. But during the dating process, that is not, primal for you.
I just feel like that's where I'm at right now in my life.
Okay.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm afraid. I just feel like that's just where I'm at. I reserve the right to change my mind all the time, and I'm pretty sure that at some point that's gonna shift. But right now, it just seems like it's how I'm hardwired. Should I say? Yeah.
So then, did you consider Chanel to be long-term or short-term, or were you just going with the flow?
I really was just going with the flow, honestly, and I know that probably put her in a situation that she didn't want to be in, and throughout the course of the relationship, we started to figure that out, especially when we talked about marriage. Right now, it's just what I see, what I witnessed, what I've experienced, right? It's just not something that I pay attention to now. And I know that's different for a lot of people, and it created some tension between us, which, again, it's natural, but I would want to feel comfortable expressing myself with somebody, especially when it comes to that big of a plateau in your life, marriage. And if our ideas don't align at the time, it doesn't necessarily mean that somewhere down the line it won't, but we should be able to have those conversations. I should be able to feel comfortable having that conversation. You might be the person to change that, or you might not, but I would rather express that and be upfront about it and not feel like I'm a bad person for not wanting to be married.
Right. So then, do you feel like you expressed that to her early enough, or do you feel like she knew what your intentions were? And do you feel like you knew what her intentions were? Was there were you guys aligned? Was there a meeting of the minds?
I don't think we really were aligned. I think because how good things were going for us, we kind of overlooked that. And when we had to have those tough conversations because we were so used to things being so good, it made things a lot harder. And once those triggers kind of went off, it was like, oh man, I gotta get away from this situation. This might not be where I need to be at. So I don't think we took enough time to actually have those conversations that we needed to have.
Okay. So how long were you guys together?
For months. I believe it was like 6 or 7 months.
Okay.
Officially, but we were talking a couple months before that. Yeah.
Okay. So who would you say taught you how to love, and what did they teach you?
I can't really put that on one specific person. I'm learning how to love from a lot of different people. My mother, her version of love is like really sacrificial. She puts herself out there. My dad's version of love is really kind of isolated, like from afar, real tough, real hard shell, but he cares. So that's one of the avenues, the people I encounter myself with, like just being super selfless at work. That's a form of love. But as of now, my son has been teaching me a lot more about love. Like that's one of the few people, that's the only person in my life that like if you're a parent, your child, like when they call your name, they really want you there. At the end of the day, like they are thinking about you, not anybody else, just you, unconditionally. And I'm trying my best to pay more attention to him so I can get a sense of like what that unconditional love like truly feels like, so I can express it to somebody else. But I've learned so much from so many people, because people want to be loved different ways.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's one of the hard things. How can I understand how to love you if I don't understand how you want to be loved?
So speaking of which, do you know what your love language is? Or have you heard of the love languages?
I actually bought that book.
Okay.
Great book.
I haven't.
Gary Chapman.
Yeah. I haven't started reading it yet. Right now I'm just focusing on emotional intelligence.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get a sense of my triggers, being aware of what kind of like pushes me there, being aware of how I come off, how I'm perceived, and things like that. So I'm not really familiar with like my language of love yet, but I'm getting there. I'm trying to figure it out.
Lakeisha, do you remember what they all are? Time spent.
Acts of service, gifts, words of affirmation. I'm forgetting one.
Because there's 7,
There's
right?
5.
Oh, is it 5?
Quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation, gifts. Forgetting one.
I always forget the last one too.
We gotta ask Siri.
Right.
Okay. Gift giving, quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, and physical touch.
Physical
duh.
touch.
Right.
Yeah, I always forget that one
Not
too.
mine, right? Because I keep forgetting it. That is funny.
I would say mine is quality time. I'm not really like super romantic. I wish I was, but that's just some people not like that. Some people don't express themselves romantically, and some people do. Oftentimes, I kind of got misconstrued with expressing myself physically as being romantic, like a romantic type of love, just because of my environment. People kind of overemphasize the physical aspect of relationships, and I kind of got that misconstrued with that's what love like really is. So I since then kind of took a step back away from that, just so I can figure out how to actually love like physically without being physical. But yeah, quality time is really, really crucial for me. I just enjoy being around you.
Yeah.
And once you come away from the physical aspect of, sex is associated with love and things like that, you can find what true intimacy is, because intimacy isn't always something physical, but emotional, just being there in your space, being present in the moment right then and there. What do you think is the purpose of us asking you all of these questions?
Just to get a good sense of, how men think. There might be women out here who are coming into contact with men like me that just don't understand. Whatever answers I have to the questions that you have could probably assist them in their relationships or some of the men in expressing themselves. I'm real big on being open and vulnerable. And you all know that just because somebody else may not be able to say, what is it I'm saying. Not saying that I'm saying everything correctly, but if it come out, I'd rather be sincere about it. And then I guess to give Chanel a sense of where my head was too in our relationship process. Yeah.
How do you think moving forward you would change the way you communicate? So communicate those expectations. Because we, when we're in a relationship, right, we always think the person knows what we want because we think they're mind readers, right? So we assume they know what I like. They've looked at my Facebook page to really know, but, Nadia, you alluded to it. We think we know, but when we really are in something, that's when we're really crafting to be like, I think I really like this because this makes me feel appreciated, or I don't really like this because this doesn't make me feel like I'm worth that to them.
Right,
moving forward, kind of changing my approach when it comes to relationships. I ask a lot more questions.
Yeah.
To a lot. Not just, somebody who I'm interested in, but it's important to get an understanding of everyone. You can't really communicate with one person if you're not familiar with communicating in general.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, we ask questions, but we don't ask the right questions.
Exactly.
In that, I've been taking it upon myself to talk a lot less and listen a lot more. Really reading a lot more, like the right literature, getting in my head, looking with two eyes, but feeling with the third one, like just so I can get a sense of what a person is or how a person is, so I know, if I need to get away from that person ASAP or not. So that's where I'm at now with moving forward, making sure I handle my relationships or potential relationships better, asking those right questions.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. And how do you feel like you can get to that space of being able to accept that unconditional love? Your son is showing you how to love unconditionally, but do you think you'll ever be in that space ready to receive it? Because it's one thing for us to want this and want that, but sometimes we're not ready to receive it, so we don't know how to.
It's gonna take some time.
Yeah.
And that's really a big portion of it. Just really allowing that time to happen. I know that I do struggle with a certain level of trust when it comes to people, but again, that's just because of how society is nowadays. I really want to get to a point where I'm openly trusting, but again, that's like asking the right questions and feeling comfortable with somebody. If I'm not able to feel comfortable around someone, or I'm not being openly accepted by that person, I'm not really gonna feel like I can openly express myself or feel that unconditional love or accept that love, because I don't feel like I'm being loved unconditionally. Yeah. I know I'm not perfect at all. I know I'm kind of learning this life thing out, just like we all are. So it's gonna be times where I fuck up, for lack of a better word, and if somebody comes into my life that knows, like, it's cool, I'm living life with you, I'm making mistakes, let's just make these mistakes together. Not judgmental at all, just super open to that process. At that point, I feel like it'll be easier for me to accept that openly, but I don't feel like people are like that now, or I haven't met any. I don't want to discredit people. I feel like there's some people out there, I just don't feel like I've met that person yet. Yeah. Some people express that to a certain extent, but it's kind of like a push and pull. Like, I know, like, that you going through things, and I know that you making mistakes, but as soon as you make a mistake,
then it's boom,
off with your head, right?
No, yeah. I hear that a lot, actually, from males. They'll say, like, women will understand, I'm trying to do this for us, do that for us, but then when it comes down to it and stuff hit the fan, and it's, like you said, what'd you say, Cher, off with your head.
But I think, too, sometimes we need perspective. You know what I mean? So sometimes in the moment, it could be like, what?
Right.
But then later, because like when you said earlier, sometimes, some women think that young Black professional men are just out here to smash, when really sometimes they're just trying to find themselves. And then I was like, dang, know, I probably labeled a few guys that way, and maybe that's really just what it was, So sometimes it's just having that perspective and being able to step back from the situation and say, you know what, just like when I was trying to find myself, maybe it didn't show up in that form, but nonetheless, there are multiple forms.
Right. And then kind of like how you said, sometimes it's hard for guys to communicate that to the female at that time. So it just kind of seems like, really? Like, you could have told me that. But from their perspective, it's like, I don't want to look weak. I don't want to look soft. So sometimes they can't always, share that or express that.
Right. And keeping in mind, all behavior is an attempt to meet a need, too,
Right.
So we're not telling you verbally what we want, but our actions are showing it.
Right.
So I have a question. So looking back on your relationship with Chanel, are there any regrets? Like, is there anything that you think of where you're like, I wish I would have done that differently? Or just in general, like, do you view her as the girl who got away or anything like that?
I love Chanel to death, and if she don't know that,
now she do.
She's an amazing person. I really don't have any regrets when it comes to our relationship. Like, I don't like taking anything back because it helped me become who I am now, and it's helping her too. One thing I will say is that I wish we would have, talked a lot more. But we were just so focused on how good everything was going, and we didn't take that time to step back and really like have those conversations. So that would probably be the only thing I would do differently. But I don't regret anything.
And that's scary to be like, this is going so great, but dang, I need to ask him, do he want to be married? Or, like, do they want kids? Because, like, in the back of your mind, you may have that inkling of knowing, and then to have it actually come out in reality and you're like, oh, shoot, what do I do now? Because it's easier said than done, right?
Right.
And a lot of my interactions with situationships and relationships, when I've taken upon myself to kind of take that step back and slow down and ask those questions, you get so much backlash. It's like, oh, you don't want to be here? Like, you don't trust me? Like, it's not the case. I'm just trying to figure out if I really, like, truly need to be here for the rest of my life or if it's a good thing. And in order for me to know that, I have to ask these questions. And the same thing kind of applies for you. In order for you to know that this is a situation that we need to be in, we need to be asking those questions, answering those tough questions, having those tough conversations. And sometimes when you bring up those moments to have those tough conversations, from a male perspective, it's like, oh, you don't trust me? Like,
Right.
And it could go so left. And then again, it kind of gets back to not being able to communicate, because when you do try to take the opportunity to put your neck out, you get backlash and you start suppressing a lot of questions that you really wanted to ask, but you can't ask because you feel like as soon as you do, you've been like threatened or losing a partner or getting backlash.
Right.
So a lot of times they say that who we attract is a reflection of ourselves. So what part of you do you think attracted Chanel?
The way she loved.
How would you
way,
categorize her love?
Hard, like really committed. Like even if she a writer, for like seriously, really unconditional, really open, expressive. As far as communicating, one thing that we could communicate through music, and a lot of times we don't have those words. Chanel kind of always knew the right song to play to let you know how she was feeling, and that's how it was too. And I think that in itself was one of the reasons why it really attracted me towards her, because I found myself in those situations where I couldn't really express myself, and now being able to find somebody who I can like sing a song, like, oh, okay, I get you,
Right.
I think that's what kind of like.
So that's where you
connected to
guys
it.
had the alignment and the connection.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, do you really not want to get married? Because earlier you were kind of talking about how, my purpose is to find out who I am so that I'm ready for my soulmate when they show up, whenever they show up. But if they do show up, then what's the plan?
At this point, no, I don't really want to get married.
Okay.
At all. But like I said before, I'm open to that change, and I know it might change, it might not.
Okay.
I guess I'll cross that bridge when it gets there.
Okay. Did you hear last week when I said, Chanel, what if you look up in a year and he's married? And she said, Sherry Renee.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh, God.
I don't know when it's gonna. I don't know when it's gonna happen, and I kind of leave it at that. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get married from a year from now. That's just it depends on how the wind blows. I might get an epiphany and something might change my life, and I might get pushed towards that direction. And our feelings gonna be hurt, or will feelings get hurt? Like, I'm sure, just because sometimes it may feel like, oh, it wasn't me, or I'm not good enough, and that's not the case. You are good enough. We all have different lives, and we're gonna have different experiences that push us in different directions, and we got to be accepting of that. So.
And I think, life happens where, like you said before, that it can change. Because, again, I think of stages of development. Our brain truly develops at 25. You just turned 26.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you still have many more stages of development to drive through, honestly. You know, right now we're all categorized to be in the intimacy versus isolation stage. You know, trying to find those long-standing relationships, or have we not reached that peak where we're, you know, on the sideline and just kind of in our own little box, really trying to figure ourselves out. So.
And just know that if you get married, I will come and find you if it's within the next year.
I think we all would, because
Oh gosh.
that would be nice.
No, I totally understand. I totally understand how that goes. I was telling you this morning that I was thinking back to somebody, Lakeisha. I was telling her that I was thinking back to somebody that I was dating, and he proposed to me.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love this guy with all of my heart. But when he proposed, it went left. Like, I was like,
scared y'all.
I'm not ready for this, you know? And then a few years later, here I am. I'm the first one to get married at 24. So he probably looked at me and was like, this girl is off the chain.
He probably used a different word, but, you know, whatever.
And I'm glad you said that, because we were talking about the archetypes. So archetypes, we all have them. There are 4 bases. It's the child, the victim, the prostitute, and the saboteur. And so it was funny because I was joking with Nadia, like, you were being the saboteur in that.
So
you were
what are
running from
archetypes?
that. Archetypes are just these 4 base personality types that we all have. Granted, there's like 70 sub archetypes. So we really would pull like 12 of them, 4 being those 4 base. And then the other 8, you kind of choose, you know, artist, dancer, judge, whatever. But we all have those 4. So the child, the victim, the saboteur, and the prostitute. And those 4 show up in your business and personal life, social life. So one may be stronger than the other. So like for me, in business, I'm the prostitute, meaning that I love to give stuff out for free in the sense of my services.
It does sound weird.
Wait a
Right,
minute.
it does,
honey.
but think about it, you know.
Right, I was like, hold on, honey.
Not
You gonna
like
come
an
out on air as
actual
a prostitute? honey?
No, not as an actual prostitute, but the mentality of one, because I don't see the worth in my services. I want to give people my services, my counseling services for free if I could, at a low pay, sliding scale fees. You know what I mean? Like, not really seeing the value in what I'm worth for providing those services. And, you know, the child, you can be either the black sheep or the golden child. You really want to be something really perfect, or the black sheep, man, everything you touch, it messes up. The saboteur, you know, things are going really great. All of a sudden you do something to derail it all, you know? So which archetype would you say that you played in your relationship? Because they show up, but I think we have to be more conscious of which one shows up, and we got to reel it in if we need to. Like me, I'm learning to reel in that prostitute archetype, because I can't give my services away for free.
Not if you want to eat, child.
Right, you know, as much as I love and want to help people, I know at the end of the day, too, I got my own family that needs to eat.
Right.
You know? So which archetype would you say you were? So the child, the victim, the saboteur, or the prostitute? And the victim, of course, is always like the woe is me, and always, you know, playing the victim role. Like, they did me so wrong. I can't believe that.
I'm not the victim, like, at all.
Now, you know he don't like to be put in boxes. Why are you trying to box him?
Right, but you know, we all have
different.
it. We all have those 4 bases, but one shows up stronger than the other in certain situations.
So what are they again?
The saboteur, the prostitute, the victim, and the child. So can I tell you what I think?
Go ahead.
I feel like that was going to happen anyway. So.
No, I was going to say the saboteur.
I was thinking that, like, not necessarily in the relationship, but after.
Mm.
And that's if I'm understanding it the right way. Just because I could have waited to do some things.
Yep.
Just to give it some time to figure out, you know, if we could reconnect.
Yeah.
But I wasn't thinking like that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to focus on how.
Because you like, it's going to go bad anyway. Like, what's the point? We not together.
No, at that point, it's like, I tried to. I used to reach out just because I wanted to check on her and see if she was good. But she expressed to me that, thank you, it was too much for her. She felt that connection, so it was best if I just, you know, leave her alone. And if somebody tells me leave me alone, like,
that's what you do.
I just do it. I don't want to overcomplicate anything. And I moved on physically. And
Yeah, let's talk about
we could
that.
talk
Oh
about
Lord!
that.
But
It's
remember,
different
all
for me.
behavior is to try and meet a need. So you felt, and I'm pretty sure you felt bad for how things ended with you and Chanel, and you don't talk to anybody about your feelings because you don't have that safe space to really tell somebody, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did her wrong, or not even I did her wrong, but I can't believe I hurted her like that. Like, I really love her. I wanted this to work. But of course, your physical reaction is, well, to get over this, I'm gonna do something physical.
Doing something physical wasn't really a means for me to kind of get over it. It was just me being physical. I wasn't thinking with my heart at the time. I was thinking with my dart. Most men kind of do that, and oftentimes it gets misconstrued. Like, you are trying to. I was just scratching that itch. We sexual creatures, period, point blank. And my sexual experiences prior, weren't mostly emotional, or it wasn't any affection attached to it. It was just kind of something to do when there was nothing to do. And then I bounced back to focusing on what I needed to focus on. I told Chanel that I needed time to focus on what I needed to focus on. My job wasn't solidified. My situation, my co-parenting situation wasn't the best with my son. I wanted to make sure that was taken care of. And I was just freaking out about all of that. Since then, my job, I got it. My co-parenting situation, granted, it's not the best of situation, but it's getting there. It's getting better.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I just scratched that itch and got back to doing what I needed to do. It had nothing to do with how I felt about Chanel. Didn't really care too much about the person that was with it. It was just something to do. And it was a quick thought. It was too quick of a thought. And I didn't consider the effect that it would have had on Chanel. And that's looking back at it in retrospect. But again, like I said, it wasn't like I'm doing this to get over. I need somebody to be around. It's just I went back to what I was kind of used to. It's just being sexual. That's natural. We all have those urges, and I scratched it.
Okay, so Chanel's thoughts on the matter were, he needs to put some respect on my name.
Wait,
I'm
we?
sorry.
I was just
I was
can
just
we
gonna
introduce
say.
that Chanel is here?
I'm here now.
Hey guys,
I
I'm here. Hey y'all.
Hey.
You guys are here. Hey
What's up, what's up?
Deontay, you're
How you
here. It's good to see you. Hey dude, everybody's here. I'm actually going to be a listener this time, so I didn't hear the beginning of the interview with were we saying your name? I'm sorry.
Rams. Rams, but I mean,
But I don't call him that.
it's
So
cool.
for
You
me,
can call me that.
okay, thank you. So I'll be tuning in to listen to episode 5 when it drops. But I will say, yeah, I did feel like, do what you do, but still, I'm out there. I see stuff, I hear stuff. So still respect my name. And because I do the same for you, like I never want to disrespect you in any type of way. And I don't want other dudes to feel like they can disrespect you too, because that's not how I roll. So that's where that was coming from.
I don't feel, I guess I looked at it a lot differently. Sorry about that. I looked at it a lot differently. Because we are in an environment that's so small, whatever I do is going to get blown out of proportion. And a lot of people in our situation, in our surroundings, just because they see things and don't necessarily understand things, kind of make it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I wasn't doing it in a spiteful way or to disrespect you. I was just doing it because that was something I felt like doing. And I try to express on my end that I'm really comfortable with you doing whatever it is that you need to do to be happy, so long as you're happy. I'm not in control of you, and you're not in control of me, and that's selfish for me to tell you can't do A, B, and C. But if somebody does see me do something that comes back to you, of course it's gonna make you feel a certain way because they don't understand the understanding that we had. You could have at any point did what you wanted to do. You chose not to, and not saying that's a bad thing. That's just you. I'm a different person, and that doesn't take away from how I feel about you or the love I have for you. That just means we completely different. And that's how I see it. I didn't see it as a means of disrespecting you or anything of that nature. I feel like the people on the outside just felt like, you know, now we know that y'all talk, you know how you feel, you know, he really is disrespecting you, and I don't get off into everybody on the outside of my relationship, because if I was so inclined or so focused on how they felt about my relationship wouldn't function the way I wanted to function. It's going to function the way they wanted to function or the way they perceive relationships to function. That's how it was for me. It wasn't to disrespect you. Yeah.
Oh, sure. I know.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Chanel, do you think
Appreciate
it would be a different reaction for you if it wasn't somebody that you had known?
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
I don't know how much we can say.
Well, I don't know the person, and so it's not like somebody I knew. But I still feel like people know me, so when they know if I like somebody or if I'm involved with somebody, like I'm in there. Like you don't know that I'm all about this person. So then when people see that it doesn't work or that the other person has moved on, it's just like, okay, well, what happened? Like, what is she doing? So my thing is always still like putting me in a good spotlight. Like I said last time, Milwaukee is small, and we all know each other, and people talk. So for me, it was just like, you know what, like people gonna be like, well, why is this happening to her? Like, why did it go down like that? So that was my whole thing.
So then, how do you feel about it now, hearing his response?
I feel the same, because me and him had talked about it, like, after that had happened. He told me, he said the exact same thing. So, I mean, we're going to respectfully agree to disagree, where he feels like, you know, I didn't do anything, and that's his idea. I can't change that, and I respect that he feels that way. And he totally told me, like, it wasn't nothing. It was just me physically wanting to do this. It had nothing to do with if I liked her or anything like that. It was just a physical situation. Okay, but I still feel like me being me and how I wear my heart on my sleeve, I felt salty by it. And I was still like, I wouldn't do that to you.
So are you more mad that he did it and you didn't?
No. Because I could have had sex a number of times. When dudes realized that he wasn't in the picture anymore, like, the DMs was popping, like, oh, so come through and it was just like, you know what? No, like, I don't really want to.
Right.
Because I still, at that time, I was still like, I don't want to leave the door open because maybe he'll come back. Like, I want this to kind of work. So for me, it was just like, no, like, I could have moved on, but just don't want to.
I know that, boo. You know,
I could have, but it was like, for what? Like, I don't really want to. For what?
So is it possible that maybe that's where some of the frustration came from? Is that you were hoping that maybe it was still, that door was still open, and then him doing that was kind of a confirmation that no, it's closed.
Absolutely. That's what it was. Where I was just like, oh, we're gonna be together, we're gonna be fine. Like, he's gonna come back, and then when it happened, it was just like,
he ain't even coming back.
He ain't coming back.
So
I was giving it to him, and that wasn't enough. So he ain't coming back now. So yeah.
So Rams, was that your official nail in the coffin? Like, I ain't coming back. Like, not in a disrespectful way, because like you said, that was not your intent. But was this the nail in the coffin? Like, okay, I'm moving on. You know, and
anything to do with moving on. It was like, when I say it was simply just
it was just a physical reaction
just a
for
physical
you.
thing. That was it.
So it was literally
not
itch
thinking.
or scratch.
Oh my gosh. A zip that needed to be popped. Oh no.
I feel like he basically told me I said what I said.
I said what I said.
I said what I said.
Rams, at any point did you ever feel like the door was still open for you to kind of rekindle that with Chanel? Or did you want to? Like, after, you know, everything went down, before the smashing or whatever, you know, or even after. Sorry, y'all.
I definitely felt like the door was it may have been open. Let me pause for a second so I can get this come out the right way. I really wasn't sure, and that's because I wanted to give her like whatever space she needed, but at the same time, because of the feelings that I have for her, from a friend perspective, like a close person, like I really care for her a lot. I would want to be like, check up on her and things like that. But if she didn't want me to reach out to her so she can take the time that she needed to take for herself, I can't be selfish and I have to allow that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I pulled back because I wanted to respect the time that she needed.
Yeah.
Even in the inside, me being a person I am, I want to check up on her. I just know she needed her space and her time to deal with the situation the way she needed to deal with the situation. Not to say that somewhere down the line we wouldn't come back and reconvene. It's just right now is not the time. Keep going about your day-to-day life like you should be going about your day-to-day life. And that's what I did. I gave her space, let her do whatever it is that she needed to do, and went about my life doing what I needed to do. And I was focusing on trying to solidify this job, trying to come up with better ways to co-parent, and having fun, for myself, smiling with the people who I'm around in my area, my proximity. That's what it was. I literally worked, I read, I slept, I went out with my friends, and it just happened. It had nothing to do with like, oh, it's over. I want it to be over. I'm not thinking about anything else. It's something that just happened.
Do you miss your friendship, your relationship?
I
Because
do.
you said it was great. It was,
I do.
was good.
I do. Chanel is a wonderful friend. Not too many people out here like her, and not having conversations with her, it did affect me. So yeah, I do miss it.
I would like to think that, part of her being such a wonderful person comes from her wonderful friend
Friends,
group.
yes. Thank
We have
you,
a big
Nadia.
influence over that, huh?
I was gonna say it too, but
I guess.
it comes so much better from you.
I just met y'all. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no, you tripping now.
That is funny.
So, if going out and, like you said, just having this random encounter, if that wasn't to move on, then how did you move on, or how are you moving on?
I just take everything day by day. Once that situation kind of happened, I got the Darth Vader side of Chanel.
It is not pretty, honey.
And,
Can you expound on that? What exactly do you mean when you say?
No,
You don't have to give us the clean version of this.
No,
What?
right.
might have to hit that bleep button.
There are no bleeps and pods. You can say whatever you want.
Man, I was fuckboy this, fuckboy that.
That's not
Subliminally.
Chanel.
No.
There was a blog that went up.
I kind of read between the lines.
But no. Okay. So I was hurt, bae, when I wrote that.
You was hurt, bae, honey.
And I was just like the Kermit typing on my typewriter, like, I'm gonna get all this out. He made me mad. But it was from a place of hurt. And I know you're not a fuckboy. I know that. I honestly know that. But I feel like, stuff happened and stuff does happen. And people hurt people. I've blogged about that. And whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, it happens. So I for sure know you're not a fuckboy. You know that. You know that I know that you're not that, right?
Sips tea. Look, yeah, I wish I could have seen his face because he was like, "Do I?"
Speaking of blogs, Deontay, how do you feel about that? Sometimes you might be the highlight of a blog here or there.
Or a pod.
Here we are.
Hence today's
I'm
episode.
cool with it. Chanel know I'm pretty laid back. Like, it's a form of expression. And it's truths that a lot of people would normally tell, like, in, like, regular day-to-day conversation. And it's a lot of stuff that they need to hear, need to read. And sometimes these are the outlets that they take place, so I'm open to it if I'm part of the subject matter and it's helping somebody learn something about themselves. I'm game.
That's awesome. And, everybody's perspective is their reality. So, it's always interesting to hear the different perspectives from people because what they view things as is what they have envisioned as their reality.
And I just want to throw this out there. Like, anytime I do mention him or talk about him, I do always highlight, he's great, he's this, he's that. I never want to put it out there that I don't love him or respect him or anything on that nature, whether it's him, his businesses, or whatever he has going on, I make sure I try to highlight that. There are some guys in my past who truly are fuckboys, and I want them to know that, because that's what they are. But him, no, he's not that, and I don't want that to get misconstrued.
No, and I think it's really evident in your blogs, and even now, you know, like
Except
how
for
you
that
guys
one.
speak.
Except, I was gonna say, Rams, except for that one
Except for that
child.
one. She was like, I know you're reading it.
She was like, and
she was
if you think it's
hurt.
about
She
you,
was
then it
hurt.
is. And I was like, oh.
She was hurt. She was hurt though, because look at your interactions now. You know what I mean? So it's always good to still see that,
Larry, I was mad as
regardless of
hell
how
that
things have
day.
ended.
But most of our, like, when we were in close proximity with each other, the interactions were cool. The hardest part was when we were apart, or was handled through text messaging, or we would see each other like for a split second, and that kind of overcomplicated a lot, or probably made the situation a lot worse than it should have been. I remember after, like, our last, like, official, like, hey, it's done, you know. I drove over there, I talked to her, and it was hard, but it needed to happen, and it was, from my point, I felt like it was a good place to, a good time to resolve it, a good way to resolve it, because I never did nothing like that in my life, like ending a relationship. I only been in, what, three relationships in my life, and sitting, talking to her, seeing how she felt, like literally instead of reading how she felt, not having that tone, that emotion, those visual communication clues to get a sense of how she really felt, made stuff a lot more complicated. And now, like, we good. Well, I won't say we can 100% good. You know, it's
We real.
easy.
It's real out here, but you know.
So I'm going to go back to a question that Lakeisha asked Rams earlier, and I think we should ask Chanel. What archetype would you classify yourself as?
So there are 4 archetypes that we each have, like, just right off the bat. There's like 70 sub-archetypes, but the 4 include the saboteur, so you sabotage it. So, you know, things are going great, then all of a sudden you do something to derail it, right? The victim, the woe is me mentality. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did this to me. Why me? Why me? The child, so either you're the golden child, you want this thing perfected, so you are like worried about it being just right and everything just working out perfectly, or the black sheep of it, you know, everything you kind of touch, it doesn't always go your way. And the prostitute. So
The prostitute.
I know, right,
and
right,
the prostitute
right.
is
Not like the, you know, the lady of the night, but the
Jezebel.
prostitute.
The
Right.
lady of the night, bro.
I wasn't ready. You don't even have to explain. I'm not this one. I already know.
No. This one isn't what you think.
Okay.
So you
But
But the
should explain.
prostitute
I'm like,
is
what?
you not knowing your worth and always willing to freely give up yourself.
Oh.
So, and these archetypes show up whether in business, relationships, social experiences. And I was telling them that mine shows up more as the prostitute, because in business I want to give freely of my services, you know, at a low rate, and you know, not really knowing what my worth
You
is.
better stop doing
You
that.
know?
So hearing that, I would say I'm a prostitute. Hey, toot. No, I'm just kidding.
Lakeisha and Chanel.
Lakeisha in the corner. Y'all know why.
Right.
Right on 27th
They
and
out here
Lisbon. That's
tooting.
where we gonna be.
Out here tooting. Both of y'all.
But I will say, and as far as relationships are concerned, I give a lot of myself with. I don't really expect it in return. That's just how I love. Like, I love hard, and I give myself freely. But I will say, was it Golden Child? Mm-hmm. That one too. Like, I have pieces of that one as well, where I want my relationships to go so well, because thinking back to Insecure, I'm always bringing it back to Insecure, but Molly had this romanticized ideal of her parents' wedding and their relationship, and I have that too, even though I didn't have that in my house, where my mom and my dad were together and they had this, but in my mind I created this perfect relationship out of, I don't know where it came from, but I was like, I need to have this. So when things don't go right, like, I freak out, like, oh my god, he doesn't want to be with me anymore, like, this is crazy. So I'm a little of both. Yeah, I'm a little of both.
Okay. So then, Chanel, what are you doing to get over this whole situation? What coping mechanisms have you been using?
My blog is very helpful. I blog a lot. And now, where I am now is I feel like I'm in a better place. Like, I was nervous about coming here today. Like, my stomach was hurting. Like, that's how you know it was real. Like, I was really, really nervous. Like, I was just like, oh, no, I gotta go face him. Because we haven't seen each other in a little while. So, to come here, I was just like, oh, man, it's gonna be hard. But I feel like I'm in a good place. Seeing him now definitely, like, took some stress and emotions kind of off my back. Where it's just like, it's good to see him. Like, I'm excited to see his face. So that's a good thing. And then on the drive here, I'm thinking, like, I don't want people to listen to this episode and think we're trying to do, like, Hurt Babe Part 2. Because I feel like that was fake. Like, they were still together, whatever the case may have been. But this is really, like, he and I are both transparent enough to be like, okay, this is what happened. Mm-hmm. This is the mistakes that we both made. This is how we coped through everything. This is how we handled it. But we're still not together, and we're working through that. But like he said, he's doing what he needs to do in his life, and I'm doing what I need to do in my life. So we're definitely not trying to play a game or do this for Milwaukee ratings, because we're not. We're really, like, in this transparent place where we want people to know, okay, this is what it is. This is what happened. So I think this is healing in itself for me to be like, okay, I spilled my guts last episode. He's spilling his guts this episode, and then we get to talk face to face together about what happened and how we're gonna move forward from here. But as always, the thought for me is always, I wish the best for him, and he knows that. Like, whatever he has going on, I'm proud of him, all of that type of stuff. So it's definitely no negative feeling. So I'm definitely in a good place where I still can be like, I want to be around him.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying, if that makes sense.
So then, what would you do differently next time?
In my next relationship?
Yeah, what have you learned?
I've learned a lot. I've definitely learned to let the man be a man. I can't do everything on my own. So I've learned that. And I've also learned to just take my time. Like, everything is not, like, who am I racing with? There's no time limit. There's no clock for me to kind of race with. But just for the next relationship, take my time and let the man kind of be the man. Let him pursue me. Let him do the things that a man is supposed to do. And more importantly, wait for God. If God is like, okay, that's it. Be patient enough to hear those signs from him, so that I'm with the person that I'm supposed to be with, not I'm making this decision on my own. And that's not to say that he wasn't a godsend to me, because I really feel like we definitely, together, we were very strong. Like, we definitely put pieces together of each other, and we definitely had a good connection with each other. That was not on some sexual type shit, but more so, like, on everything. Like, we just made a good match. So I will say that. So next time it's just, taking time.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions?
No.
I guess my last one would just be, how do you guys plan to operate moving forward?
So is this, like, really the end, or?
You said the listeners want to know.
I was going to say, have we rekindled anything up in here? I'm just Actually, I had another question.
That's two.
For
Sure.
Rams. Well, I'll be lying. Okay, I'm a liar. Okay, they some prostitutes, and I'm a liar. Now,
our circle is all bad.
So, Rams, have you moved on with anyone else? Are you in another relationship?
I am in a situationship right now.
A situationship.
Yeah.
Okay, so then how do you guys plan to move on going forward? So with you guys having your Greek lives, you tend to kind of cross paths.
So, right. So it's inevitable that we'll see each other. So it'll definitely be like, hey, bye. So I don't know what else to say. So, it'll definitely be cordial, I'm sure. Checking up, hey, how you doing? How things going? Blah, blah, blah. So that'll be what it is. And for me, I'm just doing Chanel right now. I'm not looking for anybody. So if you out there, listen, y'all, I don't want to be with anybody, okay?
Just say, get out of my DM.
You can't make me love you. I don't want to, okay? Leave me be. When the time is right and God is like, okay, that's for you, then it'll happen. But for right now, please, guys, because I don't want to curve you too hard. You got to recognize the curve, okay? So just leave me be.
Okay. So Final thoughts for dessert. Lakeisha, we'll start with you. What are your final thoughts?
Communication is key. Having those conversations up front, they're hard and difficult, but worth it.
Yeah. I'll just kind of piggyback off of that because that was definitely mine. I think that there is a lot of stigma that comes along with having those conversations. Like, so do you want kids? Do you want to get married? Like right away. But this situation itself has definitely showed us that that's key. Yeah. It's important.
For me, it makes me think of an episode of Iyanla Fix My Life that I saw. And basically what she said was, when you already know what your deal breakers are, there's no decision to be made later. Because when all the emotions get involved, then you're like, wait a minute. So in episode 4, Chanel said, when he told me that he didn't want to get married, technically that's a deal breaker. Right. Yeah. But she was thinking like, oh no, but we got to make this work. Like this ain't gonna, But if you know that ahead of time, if you know that that's a deal breaker, then you'll bring it up sooner. Going back to communication is key. And then you already know what needs to happen. If this, then that, period. Rams, final thoughts?
Yeah. It's a good book for both men and women. Well, he has two. I'm not really familiar with what his name is, but the book is called Unspoken Feelings of a Gentleman. There's 2 versions of it, 1 and 2. You should read both of them. I said that to both men and women because you'll get a sense of what it is that we kind of go through. He did a good job of explaining like some points I kind of didn't agree with, but for the most part it's good read. I'll try my best to keep it with me. It's probably in the car right now, honestly.
Actually, we had a guest speaker at our church last week, and he mentioned that book as well, and I said I was going to get it
His name is Pierre Gentry.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, Pooh?
I guess you all have said it all. So just communication is key, and if there are those red flags, listen to them, and it's okay if it doesn't work out.
Right. And I'm going to also add to that it's okay to disagree. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily make someone right or wrong. Right, we're just not aligned, and that's just what it is, and that's okay.
Yeah,
right.
So, all right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to episode 5. Until next time,
peace. Thank you for listening to Brunch with Besties. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to shoot us an email at brunchwithbestiespodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram. Our handle is @brunchwithbestiespodcast. For right now, you can listen on SoundCloud. Be sure to review, subscribe, and comment. We appreciate it. Thank you.